Big trade in the NFL. The balance of power in the AFC may be shifting southward, with the Buffalo Bills trading four-time Pro Bowl receiver Stefon Diggs and a couple of late-round picks to the Houston Texans for their 2025 second-round pick. C.J. Stroud coming off the most prolific rookie season ever for an NFL QB, and now he's got Stefon Diggs to throw to. How do the Texans stack up in the AFC now? Here's two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden.
If C.J. Stroud can play the way he played last year with all the additions they've made, they are the next best team, in my opinion, outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. When you talk about teams that can compete with the Chiefs to get to that championship-like opportunity this upcoming season, it's Kansas City. And right now, with all the additions that we've seen, adding Stefon Diggs, the Houston Texans, they're right there. And that's surprising to think about when you think about the Houston Texans maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Look at the drastic change they made. And when you talk about championship aspirations, it's not about the AFC South anymore. No, they're buying in. It's about Super Bowl moments, trying to get to that level. And they're the second best team in the AFC, in my opinion, right behind the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's a big praise right there as a look at the Texans' projections this season, courtesy of Sportsline. And with the addition of Diggs, Houston's Super Bowl chances nearly double. Their playoff chances go from under 50% to almost 60%. And Sportsline projects C.J. Stroud will be a huge beneficiary with a significant jump in his stats this season. All right, for more on Stefon Diggs to the Texans, let's welcome in Sportsline Sia Nejad. And from CBS Sports, Ryan Wilson. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. You heard what BMAC said. What do you say? Are the Texans a legit threat now in the AFC?
Absolutely, Russ, and I think BMAC laid out a pretty good case as to why they're certainly better than the Buffalo Bills, which is not something I thought I'd be saying over the course of this offseason. And you look at it this way, what helped Josh Allen turn the corner is the addition of Stefon Diggs when he was traded from the Vikings to the Texans, and he took his game to another level. Same thing can be said for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, even Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. And the theme there is if you get your really, really good quarterback, a really, really good playmaker on the outside, the offense can go to another level, and that's pretty impressive given how well C.J. Stroud played in year one in that Bobby Slowick offense. The other thing you have to consider is this. You have your rookie quarterback on his rookie deal, which means you can spend money elsewhere on the roster before you have to pay him $45, $55, $65 million a year, and that's exactly what the Texans are doing. They hit a home run with Tank Dell last year, their rookie wide receiver, who was balling out before he got injured. Nico Collins took his game to the next level. They acquired Joe Mixon in the offseason from the Bengals to help the running game. And that offensive line, when healthy, is also quietly one of the best offensive lines in the AFC. So taken all together, it's easy to say this is the best team in the AFC South, which includes, of course, Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. And I think BMAC is exactly right that they're nipping at the heels of the Kansas City Chiefs as one of the best teams in the entire AFC. Yes, we're a few months out from the football becoming a thing again later this summer, but I think it's a great position to be in if you're the Houston Texans heading into the draft.
I certainly agree that to win the AFC South plus 110, I like the Texans there quite a bit. What I will say, though, just to respond to Bryant McFadden, I don't know that they can stop the Baltimore Ravens. We saw what happened in that playoff matchup last year, and I don't know that they've made the improvements. We'll see about the draft on the defensive side to stop a Lamar Jackson-led offense. With that said, I think they're in the top 3 or 4 discussion in the AFC. There's other teams that might have something to say about that, like the Cincinnati Bengals, for example. But with all that said, I do think Diggs is sort of a luxury ad because of what Ryan said about, the salary cap and not having to pay your quarterback. Let's not forget, this was a pretty good receiving core prior to that. If you include Dalton Schultz in the mix, Nico Collins, of course, Tank Dell, Noah Brown really showed out when he was healthy. So you had Stefon Diggs. I don't know how many catches Stefon Diggs is going to have, but I don't think he's going to be frustrated by that because his team is going to be good enough to transcend any individual's desire to be the star receiver on this team. So I'm really looking forward to C.J. Stroud really balling out. But the long story short, I think they still have some work to do to catch up to the Ravens and the Chiefs, but this is a great team. They're going to win the AFC South.
Look, Texans, huge, pleasant surprise to a lot of people in 2023. No surprises in 2024. They're in the thick of things. Ryan, where does this leave the Bills? How close to closed is their championship window right now?
Oh, no. As long as Josh Allen's here, the sign out front is still flashing neon open, but you're going to have to help him with some players around him. As we sit here, Khalil Shakir is the only wide receiver on that Bills roster who has caught a pass in a professional football game from Josh Allen. And that obviously is pretty concerning. They did get Curtis Samuel this offseason. They have Justin Shorter listed as a starter. That's not a long-term solution. Of course, those tight ends are really good, but when you pick 28th, you're probably thinking about getting a wide receiver. A cornerback could be a decision to be made there. They need some help in the defensive backfield. But I think when you lose a Gabe Davis, which we knew he was going to walk, and then you trade Stefon Diggs because he was unhappy, you have to get someone to help that offense continue to play at the level it was playing at when Stefon Diggs was hitting on all cylinders. And let's be real, the last half of last season, Stefon Diggs was a non-factor. And you could argue that he cost that team some games down the stretch, even in the postseason. But if you're picking at 28 and you see an A.D. Mitchell out of Texas, he's a potential guy you would target there. Also, Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. If he happens to fall, I think you sprint to the podium and take him. And a name that I'm going to keep mentioning until I wish it into existence, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. Some folks might think this will be overdrafting Ladd McConkey. Watch out. If he doesn't go here, I think the Chiefs will be thinking long and hard about taking him at 32. So he's another option. All three receivers can come in right away. They're all explosive in different ways and help your football team make up for some of the lost productivity that you now see going to Houston with the Stefon Diggs trade going south.
It's interesting because I think we've learned, and we learned this with Houston, by the way, that you can add receivers to your group that can really flash kind of unexpectedly late in the draft, for example, with maybe a Tank Dell or a Noah Brown, who to a lot of, by all appearances, was sort of a journeyman when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. So I don't think the problem with the Bills is necessarily the receiver group. I mean, it obviously is now, but they can fix that with the right draft picks, with some free agency moves. I think the issue is the Bills' window was already closing before they dispatched Stefon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. I mean, this is a team that I think is maybe on the downturn, which is why I don't even expect them to win the AFC East. What's so interesting, Russ, is that when you look at the odds, look at FanDuel, plus 160 to win the AFC East. I don't think those odds are right. I think it should be closer to plus 180, plus 190. And when I gaze down below the Bills and the Dolphins, and I see the Jets, who are likely to have a healthy Aaron Rodgers, who made some offseason acquisitions, yes, some older guys, but guys, if they last the season with what they already have, particularly on the defensive side of the ball and at the running back position, this is a Jets team that's really formidable. So I think the Jets are going to win the AFC East. I love them at plus 240. And unfortunately, I think the Bills are going to be okay. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think we're going to start to see a real downturn here with Buffalo unless they drastically change something, not just with the receiver group.
How about Sia with a long-term, very early look at the Jets to win the AFC East? You're a stronger man than I, Sia. You get rid of past history much quicker than I do. Hey, Sia, I'm going to give some love to your podcast as well. It's the Early Edge podcast. Check out Sia there. Ryan Wilson, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan, thank you very much. And you can check out Ryan. He's got his own podcast. He's our CBS Sports senior draft expert, by the way. He's also the co-host of the With the First Pick podcast. Ryan and longtime NFL GM Rick Spielman, as well as a cast of characters. They dive deep into mock drafts, prospect position rankings, stock watch, notable interviews, and much more. Download and subscribe to the With the First Pick podcast wherever you podcast.